Senator Ossoff, good to work with both of you on this really critical committee. Secretary Collins, you are charged with making sure we keep our promises to our veterans. And I will tell you, as the daughter of a veteran, one who had great need for the VA benefits, I take this work seriously. Now, Mr. Secretary, I know you hate scaring our veterans, but here's what I know. When you fire thousands of VA staff with no rationale beside Musk said so, that really scares veterans. When you cancel hundreds of contracts, including a cancer registry in my state, that scares veterans. When you muzzle our researchers, that scares veterans. When you eliminate the VASP program, which helps save veterans from foreclosure on their homes, that scares veterans. When you remove language saying veterans and doctors can't be discriminated against based on their political views or marital status with no explanation until after people called it out, that scares veterans. And more than just scaring veterans, it puts the care and the support they have not only earned, but are entitled to in serious jeopardy. So if you're concerned about scaring veterans, my suggestion is to stop doing what you're doing. Focus on what matters. Stop implementing policies with no explanation or analysis. Lift the hiring freeze and get our facilities fully staffed. So to that end, I have a few questions about some of the actions that veterans have told me they are deeply concerned about. And I hope today you can put their minds at ease and give us some clear, straightforward answers. Secretary Collins, there's been a lot of discussion regarding your decision to modify VA provider guidelines that would open the door to discrimination. You struck the words age, national origin, politics, marital status, and disability from the anti-discrimination policy that was applied to our VA hospitals and our clinics. When you changed the guidelines and removed the words making clear when discrimination is not tolerated, what you actually signaled to veterans across the country that they may be actually denied the care that they need. So, Mr. Secretary, if you insist these categories are already covered by federal law, and therefore your changes do not provide openings for discrimination, will you commit then to reinstating the previous policy?
Senator, this is exactly what, and I appreciate you taking my own words, because it's about time that somebody up here actually decided that they were not going to continue to repeat false things that keep people and veterans from actually trusting the VA. And by bringing this up again, which was a Guardian article, which, by the way, 2 major publications, the Post and Times, others who looked into this said there's nothing there, but the Guardian, who wanted clickbait, decided to run with something, and then it was amplified, is scaring veterans. And if they're concerned, because also understand something. No, let me finish this, because this is important. Because I've been accused of this. It's not scaring. Nothing was changed that actually affected it. This is the problem we're seeing. Title 5 USO Code 2302 prevents discrimination based on marital status, political affiliation. 7102 participation rights and barring interference with those rights, all there. VHA Directive 1019 governing all medical services provided by VA and prohibits discrimination on the basis of marital status or political affiliation. There's nothing changed. By the way, our bylaws also don't say that we have to feed our patients 3 times a day. Should we put that in there specifically?
Well, Mr. Secretary.
No, I'm not going to let you get away with this.
I'm going to tell. I have the floor for a second.
No, I mean, you're not being truthful with this.
What I'm telling you is what veterans hear and what Americans hear. Please listen. When you take something out, it says that's been eliminated. Period.
No, it does not.
Well,
only when you have a cheap magazine like the Guardian who wants to put it out there and put it in a position and then have actually people of your stature and others who amplified it. How can it be that something that doesn't change anything, that fact checkers have already said doesn't change anything?
Okay, your position is it doesn't change anything.
It doesn't.
I hear you.
There is no position. It is the fact.
Well, do you think it's possible to be eligible for care and still be discriminated against when you try to access health care?
No one is discriminated against at the VA, and by simply repeating that could keep somebody from getting the critical mental health care that they need, and that would be on you and anybody else that wants to repeat it.
Well, Mr. Secretary, in fact, many of us have heard from women veterans.
Then did you help correct them?
Mr. Secretary.
Did you help correct them?
Mr.
Or did you provide the line?
Did you? You took the words
I did.
out.
I've been
did
on
not.
TV. I've been on TV. I put out videos. I've done everything because of a false article. I cannot believe we're still going down this route.
Well, I can believe
It's amazing.
I can believe it when you take words out that people hear them and I'm telling you that, Mr. Secretary. I'm simply telling you when you took those words out, people heard it in a specific way. Therefore, I'm asking you, why don't you put them back in and
No,
eliminate
they
this?
heard it in a specific way
Well, we
because
disagree.
a reporter who looked for clicks decided to write an article that he knew was false.
Again, I have heard from women veterans about experiences, which is why I have.
Do you have an example that you can give to me? Because I'll make sure it's corrected. Nobody is to be discriminated
If you're
against.
going to call each individual woman in the country and tell them they're not going to be discriminated.
There's not every woman in the country that's done this because, number one,
Well,
we
let
only
me
serve
move
veterans.
on. Let me move on. I want to ask you about the Toxic Exposure Fund. This is really critical. Congress has already appropriated funding for medical care, which has been passed into law. Your budget request proposes to cancel $18 billion of that money and shift it over to the Toxic Exposures Fund. I am supportive of putting funds where they're needed, but I do want to make sure that you are aware there are specific limitations for the use of those funds that are in statute. These are guardrails. There are guardrails to prevent misuse and address concerns. We put that in because of concerns from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle who were very concerned about turning that into a slush fund. So can you commit to us that you will abide by those limitations for all the funds being spent from the TEF to include agreements which made with the committee about what expenses incident to delivery of care means?
We're committed to following the law and the stuff that we're supposed to in this, and I know this was a concern from previous administration because the previous secretary to my seat actually said he could do whatever he wanted to with those funds.
Okay,
I'm willing to work with this committee, as I have said and told you before. I'll work with this committee to follow the rules on
All
that.
I'm asking is, you're asking to move $18 billion into that fund. Are you committed to following the guardrails, the language, the statute language that surrounds those funds? Because, Mr. Secretary, if that is true, then how can you commit that the veterans who were and are eligible for care that is unrelated to toxic exposures will not have their care cut off or limited because of the $18 billion decrease to funds?
Because as we look at our budgets and we take the monies that are coming in, we're going to meet the needs of the veterans who come before us.
Well, I find it really challenging to think that you can take $18 billion out of general medical care, put it into the TEF fund, and I have no problems with the TEF fund as long as we live by the limitations, but that is care that other veterans will not see. And let me just ask you, Mr. Chairman, if I have time, one final question. I have repeatedly raised concerns over the direction VA is taking with the research program. And now it was reported that VA officials are ordering physicians and scientists to not publish their work without seeking approval from Trump's political appointees. According to a VA official, this policy is specifically in place to prevent, and I quote, negative national exposure. So, Mr. Secretary, if a research finding would advance veterans' health but does not align with the administration priorities, will you allow it to be published?
I'm not familiar with the question you have and not going to answer a hypothetical, but I don't foresee anything. We've not done anything to restrict our researchers in going forward.
Well, this is on your website.
Okay, we're not restricting our researchers. I mean, I don't know how else to answer the question.
If you are ordering physicians and scientists to not publish their work without seeking approval, you can answer that in a forced way by saying, yes, of course, we're not going to say no. But then I'm asking.
That had nothing to, I think if at best, and I'm not even sure this is at best, but I'm going to reach here and say this is also discussing a policy that had nothing to do with research and publishing research. It had a meeting about talking to media on other issues. But I'm happy to take this and see what you're actually discussing, but nothing has changed as far as we know.
So
no, the researchers can do their research.
All researchers. You will not deny a research that shows that this whatever helps veterans.
Again, hypotheticals. I mean, we can go down all that. I can't answer a question. We don't have an exact, a question in the end. I mean,
Well,
an end to a question.
I'm sorry, but
is
it leaves
this,
me
is
with
this,
the question,
this
then
research or that research?
arbitrarily you're going to say no to any kind of.
I'm not, at this point, I'm not saying either way, Senator. I'm sitting here saying that we're not
That leaves me
restricting it.
very curious about how you're going to move forward on research. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Chair Collins.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Mr. Secretary. Maine has one of the highest percentages of veterans in the entire country, something about which we are very proud. We are also one of the most rural